The rise of Cyrus the Great, forging an empire. The raven-haired man galloping across the dusty plains of ancient Persia had no idea he was about to forge the greatest empire the world had ever seen. It was 550 BCE, and Cyrus, a prince caught between two worlds, was racing toward a confrontation with his own grandfather, the Median king Astyages. Behind him rode an army of fierce Persian warriors, before him lay the gleaming towers of Ecbatana, and in his mind whirled the audacious dream of uniting all of Asia under a single crown. Within 3 decades, this obscure tribal chief would conquer the mighty walls of Babylon, free the Jews from captivity, build the most extensive road network in history, and create an empire stretching from the Indus River to the shores of Greece. All while pioneering concepts of religious tolerance and multicultural governance that would influence civilizations for millennia to come. Cyrus and the making of an empire. The old king's hands trembled as he read the tablets before him. Astyages, ruler of the mighty Median Empire, had summoned his most trusted dream interpreters to decipher a troubling vision. His daughter Mandane had flooded all of Asia with her waters. The seer's interpretation was even more disturbing. Mandane's unborn child would overthrow him. In that moment of fear, Astyages set in motion a chain of events that would transform the ancient world, ordering his most trusted general, Harpagus, to dispose of the infant as soon as it was born. But fate, or perhaps the cunning of those around him, had other plans. Harpagus, unwilling to spill royal blood directly, passed the infant Cyrus to a shepherd named Mithridates. Instead of killing the boy, Mithridates and his wife raised him as their own in the rugged Persian highlands, where young Cyrus grew strong among the warrior horsemen of the steppes. At age 10, playing with village children, Cyrus organized them into a mock kingdom and demonstrated such natural authority that his true identity became impossible to hide. The secret of his birth reached the aging Astyages, who, in a twist of political calculation, decided to spare his grandson, a decision he would live to regret. The young prince straddled 2 worlds, raised among Persian warriors but educated in the sophisticated Median court. He learned the arts of warfare and horsemanship from his Persian tribesmen while absorbing the complexities of statecraft and empire management from the Medes. This unique upbringing shaped his revolutionary vision, an empire built not on mere conquest, but on respect for local customs and beliefs. By 559 BCE, Cyrus had become king of the small Persian kingdom of Anshan, a vassal state of Media. His grandfather Astyages watched warily as the young ruler began consolidating power, forging alliances with neighboring tribes, and building a fearsome cavalry force that would later become the backbone of his conquests. The decisive break came in 550 BCE, when Harpagus, the very general once ordered to kill the infant Cyrus, betrayed Astyages. As the armies of Media and Persia faced each other on the plain of Pasargadae, Median nobles, inspired by Cyrus's reputation for clemency and wisdom, began defecting to his side. The battle turned into a rout, and Cyrus captured his grandfather. But rather than execute Astyages, Cyrus demonstrated the enlightened leadership that would become his hallmark. He kept his grandfather as an honored guest at his court until the old king's death. With Media and Persia united under his rule, Cyrus unveiled a new model of empire. He maintained local customs, respected native religions, and promoted talented individuals regardless of their ethnic background. This revolutionary approach would soon be tested on a grand scale. To the west lay the fabled cities of Mesopotamia, ruled by the Neo-Babylonian Empire under King Nabonidus. To the east stretched the wealthy kingdoms of Central Asia. And to the north in Asia Minor, the powerful kingdom of Lydia under Croesus beckoned. Cyrus, the shepherd boy who would reshape the world, had only begun his journey. The architecture of power. In the scorching summer of 544 BCE, a Persian surveyor stood at the edge of the Zagros Mountains, squinting into the distance. Behind him stretched the first segment of what would become history's most ambitious infrastructure project, the Royal Road. At his feet lay the tools of his trade, measuring ropes, bronze markers, and clay tablets covered in careful calculations. What began as a military supply route would soon evolve into a 600-mile artery of commerce and communication, connecting the empire from Susa to Sardis in a mere 7 days by horse. The Royal Road became more than just a path. It transformed into the world's first information superhighway. At precisely calculated intervals, way stations called chaparkhane dotted the route, where fresh horses and riders waited day and night. These relay stations gave birth to the empire's legendary postal service, where messages could travel at an astonishing speed of 200 miles per day. Herodotus would later write with awe, "Neither snow, nor rain, nor heat, nor darkness of night prevents these couriers from completing their appointed courses with utmost speed." But the true genius of Persian engineering revealed itself at Persepolis. In 518 BCE, King Darius the Great launched construction of what would become the most magnificent palace complex ever built. The site selection alone was a masterpiece of symbolic planning, nestled against a mountain called the Throne of Jamshid, with natural springs providing water year-round. The builders carved a massive terrace from the mountainside, creating a platform that would support structures covering 125,000 square meters. To prevent earthquake damage, they pioneered a revolutionary technique, drilling deep holes into the bedrock, filling them with sand and gravel, and inserting stone columns, creating the world's first seismic isolation system. The architectural innovations at Persepolis went far beyond mere engineering. Each element was carefully designed to awe visitors and demonstrate Persian power. Diplomats approaching the complex first encountered the monumental Gate of All Nations, flanked by massive winged bulls with human heads, hybrid creatures that combined the strength of a bull, the wings of an eagle, and the wisdom of man. As they proceeded through the complex, guests ascended the grand staircase, its shallow steps deliberately designed to force a slow, graceful ascent that would prevent anyone from running toward the king. Inside the palace, the Persians created technological marvels that would not be seen again for centuries. The halls featured sophisticated ventilation systems that kept the interior cool during scorching summers. The builders developed the first known cable tray system, hiding their water pipes and drainage systems within the walls, creating the illusion that the fountains and pools were fed by magic. In the throne room, acoustic engineers created surfaces that would amplify the king's voice while he sat in council, making his words boom impressively throughout the chamber. This architectural revolution reflected a deeper truth about Persian power. It rested not just on military might, but on sophisticated systems of administration and control. The empire was becoming something entirely new in human history, a vast, multicultural state held together by infrastructure, bureaucracy, and cultural exchange. As night fell over Persepolis, couriers would depart in all directions, carrying orders, intelligence, and diplomatic correspondence to the far corners of the known world. The Persian Empire had created the first information age, and there was no turning back. Conquest and tolerance. The fall of Babylon in 539 BCE began not with a battle, but with a party. Inside the mighty city's walls, King Nabonidus' son Belshazzar hosted a lavish feast, drinking from sacred golden vessels, while Cyrus's army diverted the Euphrates River, lowering its waters until they could slip under the city's defenses. According to the Babylonian chronicles, the Persian army entered without battle, the gates thrown open by citizens tired of Nabonidus' religious reforms and his neglect of Babylon's patron god, Marduk. What happened next shocked the ancient world. Rather than looting the city or enslaving its population, Cyrus walked to the Temple of Marduk and took the god's hands, a ritual symbolizing his legitimate rule. The Persian king then issued a remarkable document, now known as the Cyrus Cylinder, declaring religious freedom throughout his empire. He returned sacred objects to their temples, allowed displaced peoples to return home, and explicitly protected local customs. The Jews, held captive in Babylon since Nebuchadnezzar's conquest, were not only freed but given royal support to rebuild their temple in Jerusalem. The Hebrew Bible would later call Cyrus God's anointed one, the only non-Jewish ruler to receive this title. This policy of cultural tolerance proved remarkably effective in Egypt. When Cambyses, Cyrus's son, led his army across the Sinai in 525 BCE, he demonstrated a keen understanding of Egyptian sensibilities. He had himself crowned as pharaoh, adopted Egyptian royal titles, and participated in religious ceremonies at the Temple of Neith. Excavations have revealed that he even commissioned Egyptian-style statues of himself, complete with the double crown of Upper and Lower Egypt. The Persian conquest was legitimized through careful cultural adaptation rather than brute force. But Egypt also revealed the empire's first major crisis. After securing the country, Cambyses launched an ill-fated expedition into the Nubian desert. Ancient sources claim he sent 50,000 men to their deaths in a sandstorm while attempting to reach the legendary kingdom of Kush. The disaster marked a turning point. On his way back to Persia, Cambyses died under mysterious circumstances. Some sources suggest an infected wound, others hint at suicide or assassination. The empire faced its first succession crisis, as a usurper claiming to be Cambyses' brother seized power in Persia. The crisis revealed both the strengths and vulnerabilities of the Persian system. While the empire's sophisticated communication network allowed news of the upheaval to spread quickly, it also enabled rebellions to coordinate across vast distances. The same roads that carried imperial messengers could also transport revolutionary ideas. It would take a new kind of leader, Darius, a master of both military strategy and administrative reform, to stabilize the empire and bring it to its greatest heights. Darius the Administrator. High above an ancient caravan route in western Iran, a team of skilled artisans dangled from ropes against a sheer cliff face, meticulously carving what would become history's first political memoir in stone. The Behistun inscription, a 50-foot-tall billboard of power, told the story of how Darius had crushed 9 kings in a single year to secure his throne. Written in 3 languages and carved 300 feet up a cliff, it was designed to be eternal, unalterable, and awe-inspiring. The message was clear. The age of charismatic conquerors like Cyrus was over. The empire now belonged to master administrators. Darius's first innovation revolutionized the ancient economy. In 515 BCE, he introduced the daric, the world's first successfully standardized currency. Pure gold coins, each weighing exactly 8.4 grams, began flowing through the empire. The coins bore his image as an archer, a symbol so powerful that Greek mercenaries would later joke that they had been defeated by 30,000 of the great king's archers, referring not to actual bowmen, but to the gold darics used to bribe their allies. Behind the scenes, Darius was creating something unprecedented, a sophisticated bureaucratic machine. He divided the empire into 20 provinces, each administered by 3 independent officials: a satrap, governor, a military commander, and a secretary who reported directly to the king. These officials were deliberately chosen from different ethnic groups to prevent collusion. A network of imperial inspectors, known as the King's Eyes and Ears, traveled the provinces constantly, appearing unannounced to audit accounts and investigate complaints. The empire's record-keeping system was revolutionary. At Persepolis, archaeologists have discovered over 30,000 administrative tablets that reveal the stunning sophistication of Persian bureaucracy. Written in Elamite cuneiform, they detail everything from workers' daily rations to diplomatic gifts. One tablet records a single mother receiving extra rations for her newborn child. Another lists payment for a team of musicians from Egypt. The Persians tracked vacation time, maternity leave, and even had the first known system of workers' compensation for injuries. But this bureaucratic revolution came with a cost. The empire's tolerance for local customs began to clash with its need for standardization. In Egypt, temple priests resented new requirements to submit detailed financial records. In Babylon, merchants complained about standardized weights and measures that differed from their traditional systems. The very efficiency that made the empire strong was also creating new tensions that would eventually contribute to its downfall. As Darius aged, his attention turned increasingly eastward, toward the wealthy but mysterious lands of India. But fate had other plans. In 490 BCE, news arrived of a rebellion in his European territories. A group of Greek city-states had supported an Ionian revolt against Persian rule. Darius, the master administrator, would now have to prove himself as a military commander. The resulting conflict would reshape the ancient world and begin a clash of civilizations that would last for centuries. Fire and water, the Greco-Persian Wars. In the pre-dawn hours of September 490 BCE, the largest invasion force ever assembled in the ancient world lay at anchor off the coast of Marathon. Persian General Darius watched through the morning mist as his troops began landing on the beach. Elite archers from the empire's eastern provinces, Sakai cavalrymen from the steppes, and the feared immortals, the empire's elite guard. His mission seemed simple: punish the upstart city of Athens for supporting rebels against Persian rule. But on the hills above the plain, an Athenian army waited, about to prove that the world's greatest empire was not invincible. The resulting Battle of Marathon became legendary not just for its outcome, but for its revolutionary tactics. The Athenian general Miltiades ordered his heavily outnumbered hoplites to do the unthinkable run at full speed toward the Persian lines, closing the distance before the dreaded Persian archers could unleash their arrows. The gamble worked. In close combat, Greek heavy infantry proved superior to Persian lighter troops. As the Persian center collapsed, their wings were encircled. The mighty army retreated in chaos, leaving 6,400 dead on the field. Athens lost just 192 men, whose names were inscribed on a monument that still stood centuries later. The humiliation of Marathon demanded a response. Darius began planning a massive invasion, but died before he could launch it. His son Xerxes took up the cause with religious fervor. In 480 BCE, he assembled the largest army ever seen. Ancient sources claim up to 1 million men, though modern historians suggest closer to 300,000. His engineers spent 3 years preparing for the invasion, including an extraordinary feat: building a bridge of boats across the Hellespont Strait. When a storm destroyed the first bridge, Xerxes allegedly had the waters whipped as punishment and ordered his men to drop chains into the sea to symbolize its enslavement. The decisive confrontation came at Thermopylae, a narrow coastal pass where Greek forces led by Spartan king Leonidas faced the Persian advance. For 3 days, the Greeks held the pass against overwhelming odds. Archaeological evidence has confirmed Herodotus's account of the battle's brutality. Thousands of Persian arrowheads have been found, along with sword-marked bones and bronze armor fragments. The Persians finally broke through only after a local Greek trader revealed a mountain path that allowed them to outflank the defenders. The last stand of the 300 Spartans became a symbol of resistance that would inspire freedom fighters for millennia. But the real turning point came at sea. The Battle of Salamis, fought in the narrow strait between Athens and the mainland, saw the Greeks lure the larger Persian fleet into confined waters where their numbers became a disadvantage. The resulting chaos, vividly described in Aeschylus's play The Persians, ended Persian naval supremacy in the Aegean. Xerxes watched the destruction of his fleet from a golden throne on Mount Aigos, then retreated to Asia with a third of his army, leaving his general Mardonius to continue the fight. The war marked the first time the Persian Empire had faced determined resistance from a united enemy. More significantly, it revealed the empire's limitations. Persian military might, built for controlling vast territories and crushing rebellions, struggled against the intense patriotism and heavy infantry tactics of the Greek city-states. The empire would never again attempt a full-scale invasion of mainland Greece. Instead, Persian gold and diplomacy would become the preferred weapons, funding Greek civil wars and playing city-states against each other, a strategy that would prove far more effective than force of arms. Life in the empire. A merchant caravan wound its way through the Zagros Mountains in 465 BCE, carrying Chinese silk, Indian spices, and Bactrian lapis lazuli toward the markets of Sardis. The leader clutched a small clay tablet, his passport through the empire, marked with the king's seal. At each checkpoint, he would present this token, pay a standardized toll, and receive armed escorts to the next station. This was daily life on the royal road, where traders, diplomats, and adventurers from 3 continents mingled in history's first truly globalized society. In the palace gardens of Pasargadae, royal gardeners tended to an astonishing botanical experiment. The Paradida, from which we get the word paradise, showcased plants from every corner of the empire. Here, Indian mangoes grew alongside Lebanese cedars, Anatolian apples, and Egyptian palms. These gardens weren't merely decorative. They served as agricultural research stations where new species were acclimated and cultivation techniques perfected. The Persians introduced spinach to the Mediterranean, spread the peach from China to Europe, and developed new irrigation techniques that transformed agriculture across Asia. Palace life pulsed with intrigue and innovation. The king's table set new standards for luxury, serving wines from Rhodes, dates from Babylon, and fish sauce from the Black Sea. Court physicians from Greece, Egypt, and India exchanged medical knowledge, creating the world's first international medical community. The royal workshops produced stunning innovations in metallurgy. Persian smiths invented acid etching for decorating metal and developed new techniques for creating colored glass. Archaeological evidence from Susa reveals they even created an early form of steel. But the most fascinating aspects of Persian society emerged in the realm of women's rights. Clay tablets from Persepolis reveal that women managed their own estates, served as high-ranking administrators, and commanded wages equal to men in similar positions. One remarkable document records a female chariot maker who supervised male workers and received extra rations during pregnancy. Queen Artemisia of Halicarnassus commanded her own squadron at the Battle of Salamis, while Erdabama, a noblewoman from Persepolis, controlled an economic empire of vineyards and textile workshops spanning multiple provinces. The empire's tolerance extended to religion as well. In the garrison town of Elephantine in southern Egypt, archaeological evidence shows Persian soldiers worshipping alongside Jewish mercenaries and Egyptian priests. The Persians sponsored religious festivals for conquered peoples, protected sacred sites, and even incorporated foreign deities into their own pantheon. This religious openness would have profound consequences. During the Babylonian exile, Jewish scholars encountered Zoroastrian concepts of heaven, hell, and final judgment, ideas that would later influence the development of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Yet beneath this cosmopolitan surface, tensions simmered. The empire's very success at cultural exchange created new challenges. traditional Persian nobles worried about foreign influences corrupting their ancient customs. Local elites resented the standardization of weights, measures, and currencies that threatened their traditional power. The same roads that facilitated trade also spread new ideas about freedom and self-governance, especially from the Greek world. The empire that had mastered the art of ruling diverse peoples was about to face its greatest test, not from external enemies, but from the forces of change it had itself unleashed. Twilight of the Empire. The assassination of Xerxes in 465 BCE marked the beginning of the end. The king was murdered in his bedchamber by his own bodyguard, Artabanus, who had carefully orchestrated the killing to look like a palace coup by the crown prince. For 7 months, Artabanus ruled from the shadows before Xerxes' younger son, Artaxerxes Brun, discovered the plot and exacted revenge. The incident revealed a deadly truth. The sophisticated bureaucracy that had made the empire invincible had also created opportunities for ambitious courtiers to manipulate the system from within. Blood soon flowed freely in the palace corridors. Queen Parysatis, wife of Darius II, emerged as the empire's most ruthless power broker. When a servant girl named Statira caught the eye of her son, the future Artaxerxes II, Parysatis saw a threat to her influence. According to Plutarch, she invited Statira to dinner and served her bird meat cut with a knife poisoned on only one side, a murder so cleverly executed that it became legendary. The queen's machinations would eventually trigger a civil war between her sons, Artaxerxes II and Cyrus the Younger, culminating in the Battle of Cunaxa in 401 BCE, where Cyrus fell in sight of victory. Meanwhile, a new power was rising in the west. Philip II of Macedon had transformed his backwater kingdom into a military juggernaut, introducing revolutionary tactics and weapons like the sarissa, a pike longer than anything Persian armies had faced. His diplomatic observers at the Persian court reported growing decadence. Kings who rarely left their palaces, nobles more concerned with ceremony than military training, and armies increasingly reliant on Greek mercenaries. The empire that had once ruled through strength now tried to maintain power through displays of luxury and wealth. By 336 BCE, when Alexander succeeded his murdered father Philip, the Persian Empire under Darius III had become a glittering shell of its former self. The final confrontation at Gaugamela in 331 BCE showcased how far the mighty had fallen. Although Darius III fielded scythed chariots, war elephants, and troops from 30 nations, he fled the battlefield before his army was defeated. His own nobles, seeing weakness, conspired against him. The last Achaemenid king was murdered by his satrap Bessus, a fitting end for an empire that had succumbed to internal treachery. Yet even as Alexander's troops looted Persepolis and accidentally burned its magnificent palaces, Persian culture proved more durable than Persian arms. The Macedonian conqueror found himself seduced by Persian customs, adopting their dress and court ceremonies, marrying Persian noblewomen, and dreaming of a unified Greco-Persian empire. After his death, his successors would rule through Persian administrative systems, speak Persian at court, and maintain Persian tax structures. The empire had fallen, but its civilizational influence would shape every empire that followed, from Rome to the Islamic caliphates. The Persian legacy, a timeless influence. Standing in the ruins of Persepolis today, it's easy to imagine the ghosts of empire still walking the empty corridors. But the true legacy of Persia isn't in its fallen columns. It lives on in the fundamental ways it shaped human civilization. When the Roman Emperor Diocletian reorganized his empire in the 3rd century CE, he borrowed heavily from Persian administrative systems, even adopting the Persian custom of requiring subjects to prostrate themselves before the emperor. 1,000 years later, Muslim caliphs would style themselves as heirs to Persian kingship, adopting its court ceremonies and governmental structures. The Persian Empire's greatest innovation, its model of multicultural tolerance, would influence every successful empire that followed. When Mongol ruler Kublai Khan needed a system to govern China, his advisors turned to Persian bureaucratic models. The Ottoman sultans consciously imitated Persian administrative techniques, even conducting court business in Persian rather than Turkish. Even the British Raj in India, attempting to manage a vast multicultural territory, found itself unconsciously recreating Persian solutions to imperial challenges, down to the use of local nobles as administrators and the maintenance of separate legal systems for different religious groups. Modern Iran still draws deep cultural inspiration from its Achaemenid past. The 20th century Pahlavi Shahs explicitly linked themselves to ancient Persian kingship, hosting elaborate ceremonies at Persepolis. Even the Islamic Republic, despite its religious orientation, celebrates pre-Islamic Persian cultural achievements. Archaeological discoveries continue to reveal new aspects of Persian civilization. Recent findings include sophisticated urban planning at Pasargadae, evidence of advanced metallurgy in Susa, and complex water management systems that were centuries ahead of their time. Perhaps the most profound Persian legacy is one we take for granted, the very concept of an empire based on inclusion rather than ethnic dominance. Before Cyrus, empires typically sought to impose their gods, languages, and customs on conquered peoples. The Persian model, protecting local customs while binding diverse peoples together through administrative efficiency and economic integration, created a template for successful multicultural states that remains relevant today. When we speak of unity in diversity or debate how to balance local autonomy with central authority, we are grappling with questions the Persians first confronted 2,500 years ago. In the end, the Persian Empire fell not because its model failed, but because it succeeded too well. The wealth, sophistication, and cultural exchanges it fostered created new social forces that its traditional structures couldn't contain. Yet even in failure, it left us an enduring lesson. True power lies not in walls and weapons, but in the ability to unite diverse peoples under a common system while respecting their differences. In our own age of globalization and cultural conflict, the Persian achievement remains both an inspiration and a warning, a reminder that the greatest empires are built not on force alone, but on the delicate balance between unity and diversity, power and tolerance, tradition and change.